week's customer is Tim Briggs, Executive Director of Continuous Improvement at National Coatings and Supplies. Hi, Tim. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for allowing me to be on here.
Looking forward to hearing your story. So tell us a bit about yourself and your company for people that are watching.
Well, I work for National Coatings and Supply. We're a national paint distributor. We sell paint all over the country. We've got a lot of locations. We sell paint to automotive body shops. We also sell to industrial clients as well. So we're kind of all over the place. It's kind of a company that's been around since for a while, since the 2000s. And, we're growing leaps and bounds, and it's just a very challenging environment that we're in.
No, I hear you. Tell us a little bit about your role, what you specifically do, Tim.
So I'm the Executive Director of Continuous Improvement. So what I do is I basically work between all the departments to kind of figure out, where our challenges are and smooth things out so that, we can do things better and faster, more efficiently. Because in the day and age we're in now, you've got to figure out how to be efficient or you're not going to be in business very long. So that's all I do basically is just finding solve problems.
No, I hear you. So I know this is probably going to stretch your memory a little bit, but what brought you to really think about low code in the first place, and what problems were you looking to solve?
Well, I came from in my history going back a lot of older businesses, and not just this one, but others that were not really up with technology, not on the bleeding edge for sure. And my industry as a whole, the auto body industry, is kind of, people joke it's kind of still a 90s kind of thing, because just the people in it and the people that work there and the technology, it's just everything is kind of a little bit behind the times a little bit, which is a good thing for me, because if you're not a smart guy, it's good to be able to impress people. So we needed to solve some problems. Our company had, this is several different companies, but this one in particular, we didn't have a lot of good ways to manage data. There's a lot of spreadsheets flying around, and typically everything we did was a spreadsheet and email. Mm-hmm. And at the point when we started this project, we didn't even have like an Office 365 type product. We just had literally individual spreadsheets that would be sent from place to place, carrying little packets of data, and hopefully things linked up right, and hopefully they didn't. But we were looking for some solutions that would allow collaboration. So we started down, and we basically have pushed everything we've ever engaged with to the end of the rope and broke the string. We started with Google Docs. We transitioned into Smartsheet. We took Smartsheet all the way to the end. I mean, we did some things with Smartsheet that Smartsheet didn't know they could do with Smartsheet. But so at the end of the day, we needed something that needed more horsepower, because we're literally looking at, millions of records that we're having to now work with. And as our industry has gotten more complex, our customers have gotten more complex, our deals have gotten more complex. So we had to have a way to kind of deal with managing all that. And at some point, you just can't do it anymore with a spreadsheet and an email. Yeah. So we found you guys online, and my partner, Nick, he says, wow, we should look at these guys. And I said, okay, whatever, what is it? So we started looking, and, everything we saw, we were impressed with. And, so where we're at now. So.
No, it's good to hear, Tim. And it's I'd be interested to know what the decision criteria is, because we're not the only low code, no code provider out there. So what was kind of the driving force in you making your decision?
Well, at the time, this has been a while back. It's been, I guess, 5 years.
Yeah.
We saw this as an option. We looked at a couple of others, and I think what really sold us is the people in the conversation. And I remember when I actually signed the deal to, get our initial account, which was literally, I'm not sure how much it was. It was the smallest one you have. It was a little bitty.
Yeah.
So, just talking to the guy, he goes, listen, I want to help you solve your problems. And that's the same thing I do for customers. I want to try to help them solve their problems. So it was really just about that personal approach. And, the first several conversations we have, it was obvious that you guys were listening. And as you unfolded some of your offerings, professional services has been a huge one for us. to help us get where we need to go. And I work with another guy. It's me and another guy, and he does a lot. Nick Crashoni. He does a lot of the heavy lifting programming, and I kind of draw pretty pictures and cast vision. So we kind of work together. It's kind of a symbiotic relationship. So we kind of fell into this, and every problem we threw at your team, your team could regurgitate that back to us and say, "This is what we heard you say, and this is how we think we can solve it." And we went, "Wow, that was pretty cool." So that's really what sold us from the beginning. I'll be honest with you, we didn't look at very many other low-code providers because we kind of saw what we wanted and we went for it. So that's kind of where we're at, and you guys have been a great partner.
No, thank you for the feedback, Tim. It's I think it's at the end of the day, it's great having a product, but the people that back up that product are really important to make sure that we're helping customers succeed as we go through their, I suppose, delivering their vision and bringing it to life, really. So the other thing I was thinking about is really what it'd be good for people to hear about your application. What does it do, and who are the end users?
Yeah, basically our end users and what we consider is our customer is our field salespeople, because the field salespeople touch the customer, and the customers obviously pay all of our salaries. This application is basically designed as I want to say a CRM application. Everybody throws these acronyms around, but there's a lot of CRMs out there, customer relations management, like, Salesforce and all these different companies. Everybody's got one. What we built this for was to be something we could be highly customizable, because most of the things we looked at when we were talking about, these really expensive systems, is they were like, yeah, they were really expensive, and they had these boxes that you had to fit inside of. And that created challenges for us because our business is very different than most. So that's kind of where we ended up. But the process has been great.
No, it's really interesting. You said it before about when you started with us, 5.5 years ago, you chose one of our smallest plans, and now we'll talk about that a little bit later. You've gone now transitioned to our highest tier plan, our dedicated plan. So we'll talk about that a little bit, but it's interesting because your company's grown so quickly with multiple acquisitions. And I suppose, like a lot of large organizations out there, staying on top of these data silos and incorporating multiple workflow issues. There's always issues, but especially when companies acquire another company, about bringing this all together. And I suppose that's your area of expertise. And really, how's Caspio helped you be successful there?
Well, I mean, just really the first thing is the coaching on, how do you store data? Because, you mentioned silos.
Yeah.
Every company I've ever worked in has had these silos. I have sales, I have marketing, I have operations. And what you normally find is, everybody in those silos is very smart, and they all want to solve problems, and they're all solving the problems a different way. So, for instance, you go and say, "Hey, can I get a list of all of our employees?" You may get 3 different lists because there's 3 different guys maintaining that. Or, "Hey, can I get your distribution list?" Well, maybe there's 3 different guys maintaining a distribution list, and over time, because people are just creatures of easy, they go, "Well, hey, I'm going to use his sheet or his distribution list," and then another guy goes, "Well, I kind of like this other guy. I'm going to use his sheet or his distribution list." And after that kind of replicates itself, after a while, you end up looking and going, "Wow, we've got 3 different companies here."
Yeah.
Right. So the biggest thing that has helped us is understanding how to store data and keeping one version of the truth, because it's really easy in an environment when everybody has a PC and everybody has a spreadsheet. I want to say the spreadsheet was probably the best thing that ever came along for the planet. And it was also in some ways the worst thing that ever came along for the planet, because it gave a lot of people the ability to do a lot of things that looked really cool, pretty charts and graphs, but in the background were just definitely not connected. And one of the things that your team kind of helped us do is really understand where the home for all our data is. For instance, if you're talking about employee data, we use ADP, so that's where the employee data lives. We don't have a separate spreadsheet that we try to manage that says, "Oh, these are our people and these are our stores and this is all the stuff." You put your data in ADP, and a lot of times, these different data sources won't necessarily have all the data you need in them. But what you guys challenge us to do is go back and say, "Hey, listen, so how can we try to put as much stuff, in the right places that belong, so that it's all native?" Because the minute you create a cross table, when I mean cross table, I mean you have, and all your employee information in ADP, and you have a separate spreadsheet that somebody manages about what stores and all that stuff they belong to, you get opportunities for dysfunction, right?
Yeah.
So one of the biggest things we did in the beginning is just really laid this out. It's kind of a funny story. I've got a barn here that I kind of work in. And when we started this, we stretched masking, like 36-inch masking paper up on the wall. It was probably 20 feet long. And we built our application before we even started with a Sharpie on a big wall, right? But what kind of information do we need? We need customer information. We need sales information. What does that look like, and where do we get it, and how do we do it the right way? And structuring the data is probably key. And if I'm just telling anybody that's going to start this process, begin with the end in mind and really understand what data is and kind of how it works together, and have a home for everything. That's the only home for everything. And that was key to our foundation. And we started kind of slow. We did some small things in the beginning, and now we're really starting to connect the dots and pitch overhanded. So it's just been good. I hope that answers your question. But
yeah, no, it's good. It's you actually mentioned professional services at Caspio a few times, and majority of our customers that I speak to are not technically minded, especially the contacts that we have a regular contact with. But it's really around, how do you feel as though the professional service team have helped you?
Professional services has been amazing for us. Again, Nick, my guy I work with, he's always been very quick to learn, technical kind of stuff. So he fell into the LowCode piece really easy because it was just drag and drop. Mm-hmm. You drag your elements in and you make things and you do the joins. And about the third or fourth sentence that your guy said when we went to y'all's first meeting, I was kind of tuned out because that is just not geared that way. But he has really taken into this and really understands it. And the magic between us is, I've got the industry knowledge and the background from way back, and he does as well, but he's a little younger. And I've been able to kind of go, hey, this is the direction we need to go, and this is why we got to do it. And we argue a lot, but I mean, it works out in the end because at the end of the day, we're both trying to solve a problem for a customer. Yeah. So it's been nice that he's been able to actually build some components, and it works really nice with professional services because there's many times that, like, for instance, if you wanted to sit down with a developer, you would sit down with a white piece of paper and be scared to death because he's thinking about, well, what's this thing got to do? Well, what this gives us the ability to do is go in and build pieces of it. And I'm just going to tell you, it's not for the faint of heart. You got to be willing to learn this and do this, but he's done it. And you start building little pieces of it and putting things together. And then he gives us the ability to wireframe off of that. So we kind of build, this is what we kind of think it looks like, but it also needs to do that and this. And I have no idea how to do that. When you get to that point, professional services is really your Superman, right? That they wear capes, that they listen to what you say and they try to do as much as they can. And we go back and forth with them. We meet with them on a regular basis and we bring them problems and they hit it out of the park. So we do really well with professional services, and I would recommend them to anybody. Yeah. And in the beginning, you're going to think as a person, wow, that's a lot of money to spend. But if you really look at what starting with a developer is and working for 5 years and ended up with something that doesn't work, you're going to come back real quick and figure out the Caspio is a great value for the money.
It's interesting what you're saying there, Tim, because I know obviously the professional services team love working with you and Nick as well. Is that because it's just such a transparent relationship and everybody's on the same page with kind of one goal to just get everything that you've been talking about up and running as quickly as possible. So I think it's a great partnership with them, with you guys and the professional services team. So just touching on what you said before about when you first selected Caspio, you had one of the smallest plans that we had available. You've now recently moved to our dedicated plan, which is our highest tiered, which offers a dedicated infrastructure, higher KPIs, and those type of things. What was kind of the driver around that for you to move to the dedicated environment?
Well, you guys are tricky because you help guys solve a lot of problems, and then before you know it, you're looking at this thing and going, "Wow, this thing's good," but it's also gotten really, really big, and it's almost, I almost want to say it's a little like a drug. You take a little bit and you're like, "Wow," and then you just want more. And that's the way my company's been. I'm basically holding my company back going, hey, listen, so we got these things we're working on and these are other things we need to do. But the dedicated platform was great for us because it unhandcuffed us to be able to say, hey, I need a 22 million record spreadsheet. Okay, there you go. Plug it in there, start using it. So that was big for us. It was probably the biggest thing is really making sure that we could stay on top of performance and do the things that we needed to do. Because with superpowers comes super needs, and
Yeah.
that's kind of where we had to end up. But we're really happy so far with the relationship around the dedicated plan.
Yeah.
So
No, it's
we're
good to
excited.
hear. So for anybody else watching this then, Tim, what advice would you give them if they're thinking about considering LowCode and even Caspio?
Well, like I say, begin with the end in mind. Really understand who your customer is and what problem you're trying to solve, because it's really easy to. I've worked in deals before with other companies where we develop things, and it's easy to just start making something. And if you don't have a plan and don't have a specification that goes, this is really what I want this to do, you're going to end up, going down some dark alleys and hitting some corners. And even us, as much as we plan, there's still things. Tonight we're going to have a conversation with your team about some things that we're like, wow, we didn't think about that. Can you help us? So you want to try to avoid as many of those pitfalls as possible, and make sure that your data is super sound and is as virgin as it can be where it resides, so that you're using it from the source and not from a translation table or whatever. So begin with the end in mind, really understand data, and then look at your silos, because every company, and I don't care how good you are, even the ones that have been working with us a long time, still have silos, that they still have these different people that do these different things that have to connect together. And our experience has been that with these different departments, is some of them, when we're really working well with them together, and some of them we're still coming along with. But really, what you've got to teach, what your people have got to understand, is that your job is to be there to solve a problem and help them, make a difference. One of the challenges we've also had is, well, like for instance, we come up with a new process that basically eliminates 20,000 hours of labor a
Mm.
year, and people start thinking, well, that's my job. You need to stay out of here, because this is what I do every day, and this is my world. And you got to figure out how to break down or understand some of those challenges as well. So that people have a trust that what you're working toward is going to help, and that they're always going to have a place. It's just a matter of if they're doing important work or if they're doing mind numbing work. So those kind of things, begin with the end in mind, get your data straight, look at the personnel and people side of it and the silos, understand all that, and then just know that data and data is actually a currency. And when you can tie data together with a process, it becomes revenue.
Yeah.
It really starts making things move. So that's probably the best advice I can give anybody, is figure out how to solve problems for people. And when you solve one problem, it may take a year for you to break the ice with a person, and you solve one problem for them, and all of a sudden they're like, hey, can you help us with this? We're like, well, yeah, I think so. Hang on, let me call Caspio. And then we have another discussion. Then, well, what do you think of this? And they're like, wow, that's top notch. That's stuff that would have taken us a long time. And it's just a matter of walking through that process, because really the programming part of this is the easiest thing.
Yeah.
Easiest thing. It's really just, after that, knowing what you want to do, and understanding everything that needs to happen, and getting people to come along with you.
No, it's good feedback for anybody that's thinking about LowCode. I suppose really my final question is, if you had a crystal ball, Tim, obviously your company's not slowing down. And I know you and Nick are both not slowing down. How do you see Caspio supporting you over the next 12 months and beyond?
Well, you guys may have to come up with another plan for a bigger and better thing. I don't know. I mean, I think you guys invented, basically, we came on about the time y'all started professional services, because we were being hard headed about, spending a lot of money up front to build an application. He goes, well, we got this plan that you can come in and you can spend this much a month and get to where you want to go. So that has been just a blessing for us, because it's enabled us to prove our worth within the company, because it's hard to get a guy to cut a check for 6 figures. But if you can do something smaller and start proving your worth, then it's a lot easier, because they can see the value. So that's really the main thing. And I think the reason most people fail at development is they start with a programmer that doesn't understand the business. And he just knows that X plus Y equals whatever. and having the ability to be able to do this stuff yourself and work alongside of a team that can help, extend your reach has been super huge for us.
No, thanks for sharing that. Thank you for your time, Tim. Really appreciate it. Thank you for being a Caspio customer. We really enjoy the partnership and working with your team as well. So thank you for your time, like I say, and we'll talk soon. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot.